Hey y'all, welcome to Cop Work. We're talking about today if you might want to be a detective in one of my cases. When I was a detective, well, it didn't start out as my case. It started out as a shooting. A man and his wife. The guy was a bar owner in the town I worked in, and one night he and his wife were coming back after they closed the bar, and they get out of their driveway, and a guy wearing a mask jumps out from behind some bushes and opens fire. The wife isn't hit. The man is. He does not die, but he's pretty seriously injured. And the case belonged to my partner, and he worked on it, and really couldn't get anywhere with it. There was a lot of controversy that surrounded that shooting. That bar owner had some trouble with the city I worked in and with the police department. And the rumors were flying that the police were involved in the shooting. That was not true. Anyway, he had asked another organization to help try and solve that shooting, and they just didn't get anywhere. And so I guess he'd had it about 9 or 10 months, and the powers that be above my pay grade made the decision that I should take a shot at it. And I was like, well, okay, because it was just me and my partner. We were the only two detectives at the time. They have a lot more now, but back then it was just the two of us. And it upset my partner real bad, and I was real sorry about that. But there wasn't anything I could do about it. I got ordered to work on the case, and it made him really mad. But there wasn't anything I could do about it. And so I picked it up and had to start really all the way from square one again, and rereading the case and re-interviewing people that had already been interviewed, and going back and trying to put things together and figure it out, and see if maybe if a mistake was made or something was skipped over, all of that entails. And so I I was working on it, and one day my sergeant, the guy that was my sergeant, and I went down. This man said he was a bar owner in the city, and there were a couple of bars along this little strip there, and we had gone in there and really just started asking around to see if anybody had heard anything, because it was still big talk in this town, even though some time had passed. It remained unsolved, and it was big talk in the town. And so we finally get in this one bar, and we're waiting around to talk to the owner. And there was a guy sitting at the bar, and he said, he could tell we were cops because we weren't drinking, obviously, and dressed like cops. Not in uniform, just plain clothes, but still looked like cops. And he said, what are y'all doing? And we said, well, we're waiting on this bar owner. We need to see if he's heard anything about this shooting. It took place a few months ago of another bar owner. And the guy said, yeah, I know about that. And we said, what do you know about it? And he said, you need to look at the underwear model. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he said, the victim in the shooting, he said he'd been involved with a guy that was a male model, not love triangle or anything like that, but they had had a business deal, and the model had lost money. And he had lost money, some money that he put up, and then he had lost several $1,000s by staying in the United States instead of going to Europe to model. And the reason that he stayed in the United States was because the victim in the case had said that they were going to do some development in this city with a water ski kind of park thing project. Well, that bar owner had sort of misled this guy, and he pretty much knew that the development wouldn't go. but he took the money anyway. And he kind of strung this guy along some. And so we were talking to the other guy, and we said, I don't know who you're talking about. And he said, I know his first name. And he gave it to us, and he said he's a model. And he said he does well. I said, okay. And he explained what would be the motivation for the shooting. And he said he got ripped off. I said, okay. So we take all this guy's information, everything, and I go back to the office, and we start looking through stuff, and there's nowhere in there is a mention of this, what would be the suspect. Well, we get after him, and I figure out who he is because I call some modeling agencies at this large city that borders the community I worked in, and I found out who he was. And then I get to chasing him. Well, he of course is a model, and he's not around very much, but I finally get a hold of him, interview him. He's got an alibi. I can't put it on him. So I get transferred out of CID, and eventually I become a canine officer, and have left that department. Well, several years pass, and I get a call one day of a bank robbery in another city, and they asked me to bring my dog and see if I can pick up a track for this bank robbery. So I do, and and we're working. Well, there's an FBI agent there, and he has worked on this shooting case back in the other city years ago. And he said he knew me, and I knew him, and he said, hey, how are you? I said, I'm good. And so we're visiting a little bit, and he said, we solved that shooting. I said, no, I didn't know that. He said, yeah. He said there was a guy that was in jail, and he was in a state facility, and he was a burglar, robber, whatever, bank robber, and he wanted to be transferred to a federal facility because he had cancer, and he wanted to die in a federal jail instead of a state jail because their federal's better. So anyway, they go get this confession. Well, the guy that I thought did it, the underwear model, hadn't pulled the trigger. He hired the guy to do it that confessed. So I was on the right track. I just never did figure that out. So you never know. This was years later that they told me that. I had no idea. The victim has since passed away. And there is rumor, I don't know if they ever charged the guy that confessed. I don't know what the feds did with that case. But it was kind of shocking to me that I'm working a bank robbery, don't even work for that agency anymore, totally different deal, and out of the blue this FBI agent comes up to me and says, hey, you were on the right track on that shooting. You just didn't go far enough. And I said, well, it never dawned on me, and it didn't, that he would have hired it done. I thought he would have done it himself. That was my mistake, but they didn't figure it out either. Nobody knew until the guy confessed, and the only reason that he confessed is because he wanted to go to a federal jail. Otherwise, he'd have died and nobody would have ever known. So, it's a different line of work, and you can't ever really make it up. It's very interesting. So, anyway, if you can, donate to the hurricane relief effort. They need all the help they can get. And again, one of my favorite cop shows I've ever been on was Hill Street Blues, and that patrol sergeant at briefing would say, let's be careful out there. And I paraphrase that, and I say to y'all be careful out there.